welcome to day 29 of my S-Type rebuild. The special tools required for removing the crankshaft pulley and later on the camshaft sprockets have been delivered now, and I hope they will enable me to continue with disassembling. You may already have noticed a few days ago my channel reached 100 subscribers. I'm really excited about this and want to thank all my viewers. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so, and please also ring the bell, since this is the only way to get notified as soon as new content is online. The set I went for includes both a cheaper version of the tool needed for counter holding the crankshaft while unscrewing its bolt, as well as another one that pulls the pulley off the crankshaft. The two bolts obviously intended for screwing the special tool onto the pulley were far too long, so I decided to use the black ones that belong to the pulley assembly instead. Indeed, these seemed to be a better fit, even though I felt some resistance when screwing them fully in. I supposed them to protrude into the rubber seal around the crankshaft that would be changed out anyway, and continued instead of placing washers underneath the bolt heads. As things will turn out soon, this was a mistake. 375 Newton meters or 277 pound-feet of torque the pulley is attached with to the crankshaft are quite a lot if you are working alone on your car, and the special tool as it is designed doesn't help that much for counter holding, since its lever is much shorter than that of my longest ratchet. Of course, the tool retains somehow by itself because, as mentioned before, I had screwed its bolts into some part behind the pulley. Surprisingly, operating each of the tools with one arm only resulted in an initial crack, but after that the bolt didn't want to move any further. So I decided to support the holding tool with a step ladder. I also gave the breaker bar a try, but couldn't get it into a perfect position, and somehow it didn't seem to be as rigid as my ratchet is. Changing back to the ratchet and using it in a kind of swinging motion finally enabled me to break the pulley bolt loose. I then applied the plug delivered with my tool set into the bolt hole and reinstalled the two bolts together with the puller. Pulling off the pulley wasn't a big deal, but at some point the whole assembly started to spin, which I could prevent by sticking a ratchet extension in between. And that's the result if you trust the manufacturer and don't add washers in between the crankshaft tool and its bolts. Luckily, the damage, at least in my case, doesn't affect the usability of the engine front cover, and I will by time try to grind off a little bit of its protruding part, which would make the marks and scratches disappear. Now it was up to grinding the coolant still left inside the engine block. Unscrewing the plug located on driver's side requires a 17mm Allen socket I didn't have on hand before. When doing this again, I maybe would wear safety glasses and protective gloves. Getting the drain pan into the right position with my eyes closed wasn't all that easy, by the way. Detaching the valve covers is self-explaining. The 10mm hex bolts, 14 on each side, are somehow caught on the O-rings they are surrounded with, so it's better at this point to leave them where they are and take them down together with the covers. Since the gaskets get quite sticky over time and there are hardly any protruding parts I could grab, getting the plastic covers finally removed required some patience and gentle force applied with a hammer. Getting the fully unscrewed engine front cover detached was a challenge as well. Therefore, I was using the metal plates that had already helped me with separating the transmission bell housing from the engine block. I started at the top ends and worked towards the water pump area. Alignment pins here also make it harder to get the parts disconnected. They are located on both outer sides of this cover. According to the workshop manual, I now had to lock the crankshaft in a certain position, obviously to prevent it from spinning and the pistons interfering with open valves, which could happen once the timing chains are removed. Therefore, I first had to detach the crankshaft position sensor, and then the crankshaft had to be rotated until piston number 1 reaches top dead center. Afterwards, the camshafts should be fixed in place by special bridges supplied with my second toolkit. Since I didn't know yet how to figure out top dead center or even which one is cylinder number 1, I simply cranked the engine until all the 4 camshafts flat spots pointed upwards and allowed the bridges to get installed. At this point, the camshafts on driver's side were perfectly aligned but not completely on right hand side. This only meant that timing was a little offset in general, which isn't a big surprise after 150,000 miles without the timing chains ever being replaced. After backing up and with all the camshafts out of position the same tiny bit, I could now feel one of the flex plates holes right in the middle of the opening where the sensor sat before, and was able to install the pin delivered with my timing toolkit. Detaching the camshaft sprockets required a 60 Torx bit and some tool to counterhold the camshafts. The manufacturer of my timing toolkit states the bridges I had installed before are not intended for this purpose. Instead, another part of this kit, which Jaguar refers to as a timing chain tensioning tool only, shall be used to counterhold. Unfortunately, this tool didn't fit the 2 holes of the smaller sprockets, and it also wouldn't be long enough for being able to counterhold, so I had to stick with my bridges, even though they were missing the one more stable connection in the middle to the cylinder head that Jaguar's originals come with. On passenger side, the cam bearing caps are marked as follows: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the arrow always points to the front of the car. The cams on the left hand side are marked with B each. Numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, pointing towards the front. Finally, I took down the crankshaft sprocket, and as you can see, all the oily parts were put into plastic wrap to prevent contamination. As always, time went by very fast, and that's it already for today. Next time I will remove the cylinder heads and maybe even the pistons and the crankshaft. Not to miss that, make sure to subscribe to my channel. See you back then. Goodbye.